we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call our meeting to order, and this is our special meeting for the corporation. And I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Blitzinger.
Thank you, Chairman Rager. At this time, we need to do a confirmation of the corporation's officers. For the Finance Corporation, there'll be President, Vice President, Treasurer, and Secretary. So we'll need to open that up for nominations.
Okay. At this time, we'll open up the floor for suggestions for President, Vice President, Secretary, and Treasurer of the corporation. It's been recommended that we can mirror the current board functions as we do them now, such as Chair, Vice Chair, Secretary, and Treasurer. And I'll make the motion to go ahead and mirror those jobs where the Chairman would be President, Vice Chair would be Vice President, the Secretary would remain, and Treasurer would remain as it is now currently. Have a second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of mirroring the current board functions to reflect our corporation officers, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Motion stands. And down to consider resolution for revenue bonds, Mr. Blitzinger.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tarvin. He's with Ross Sinclair and Associates, and he'll go over the bonding documentation with you.
Excuse me. Hello, glad to be here tonight. I think you know it's a two-step process for us to issue bonds here in Kentucky. A school board in itself can't issue debt over a year. You have to settle that debt within a year. So whenever we have long-term debt, it takes a two-step process. We're in step one. We are finance corporation members at this point. Later on, you'll act on a resolution as school board members. But we have two corporations. The finance corporation actually issues the debt. The school board, through an issue and a mortgage, actually pays that debt through the finance corporation. So you being the members of both groups, you have total control of it that way. But legally, it does take two steps to be done. This is a great enhancement over what we had in the 80s when you used to have to go to the counties and cities as a school board and ask them to issue debt for you. You can imagine what that might be today if you had to go through that extra process every time you wanted to do a capital project. It might be a bit cumbersome. So that's what we're doing in this finance corporation here. And what I'd like to do before I ask you to pass that resolution is that I'd like to direct your attention to the plan of finance which I laid in front of you so that you can feel assuredness that you do have the ability to pay the debt. You'll actually get into your energy savings project later in your board meeting, and you'll act on it, that part of it at that point, and you at that point will actually be passing a resolution if you want to do the project to authorize this corporation that you are right now to issue the debt. And that's what we're asking you to do at this point, is to authorize Ross Sinclair as your fiscal agent to go ahead and issue the debt if you later on decide you want to do it, okay, when you do that motion. But to look at your standing here, the plan of finance, you could just kind of quickly look at it like a personal balance statement. There's nothing really mysterious about bonds. It's just a way of financing. It's the same concept as if you go to the bank and get a construction loan to build your house. We just secure the money through municipal bonds, which are interest-free bonds, so it ends up being cheaper money for public agencies. But that's what bonding is. The first page, we have listed all the debt that you have as a school district here, and we call it the outstanding local debt. Column G, we have summary of your debt by year. The left-hand column shows you the fiscal year. The right-hand column shows you your summary debt that you have and you have obligated. We do it by 20 years because that's what we issue school bonds for in Kentucky, is 20 years. We don't have 30-year mortgages. So Everything is 20 years, and this shows you what your debt is. So that's one item to determine how much you can bond, is we look at outstanding debt, and that's what page 1 tells you. The second thing that we do then is to look at what your revenue sources are. Same concept, if you were getting a loan, the banker would want to know how you're going to pay that loan off, if he makes the loan or she makes the loan to you. And this is your revenue sources that you have, and we just work across again. You have the local nickel, you have the capital outlay source, which is $100 a student. And then our column we've labeled the FSPK is what many of you probably hear at KSBA, something called equalization. It's, technically it's called the Facility Support Program of Kentucky, FSPK. Most of us in the school business, we like the term equalization. And that equalizes that nickel that you all have, and each of us have that that are in a school district in Kentucky. We have at least one nickel. Some districts have additional nickels, but you all have one. And then we just add that up in column F, we get your total local funds. That's your revenue stream that you have ability to pay your debt. Column G, we just pull that number from the first page. This is what your current debt is, and H shows us your local funds available, column H. And then after column H, we go through I, J, and K, which are the School Facilities Construction Commission. These are offers that are come out once a biennium, and you all accept them, and when you do accept them, you can keep them for up to 8 years. And in this case, we're adding that up, and we get to column L. That is actual debt service that agency will pay on your behalf for 20 years. There's no obligation on your part to make that payment. They make that payment for you. And then we get to column L, and it shows the amount of money we have to secure your debt and pay it back if we issue a bond issue. And you can see it starts out at $143,000. Time we get to the last 8 years, what we call the long years, we're looking at 1.3 to 2 million. It escalates as we go out. The money is available to us. Now, if we move from that to my final page there, and that's what I call the bonding page, a lot of numbers that probably would put you to sleep if you went over them with detail. The big number I'd like to draw your attention to is column C, bottom line. Column C, bottom line. And that's what we project you have the ability to pay for as a bond issue or as a loan, okay? And that's $7,255,000. And if this particular loan that you all are looking at doing, if you look at my column G and my column H, that shows you where the sources of those are. The FSCC, those numbers I talked about on the previous page, they will be making the payment for you. They will make that payment. You will have no obligation. So that column G payment is coming from outside of your district. The column H column is coming from your local district, but that's money that you will be making up in energy savings, which you'll get into later on. So that number becomes a wash with the savings that you're making, but it is a payment, and I always like boards to understand that it is a payment. That payment has to be budgeted in the general fund, and you will be making that. But if you should be offsetting that with your energy savings, if not, that company has to guarantee it. So you'll get into that later in your board meeting. But I can assure you by looking at our analysis that you do have the ability to make payments on that $7,255,000 bond issue from these sources. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have and at this point in time about anything I've talked about. So if you are in agreement, you want to go ahead with it, then you need to pass the resolution that you have there, which is the resolution at the bottom of the page. If you have one that has two on it, or if it's a separate, Eric, is it a separate resolution or a separate? There it is. It's up on the board. Okay. This is a resolution that we have for you to pass at this point in time. And it doesn't have to be read into the record. It can just be a motion approving it. If you would feel better if I would read it into your record, I'd be happy to do that for you. Or if one of you would like to read it. It kind of gets to be a lot of legalese at some point. But however you would like to deal with that, Madam Chairman.
I'll just read the resolution out. The Muhlenberg County School Board resolution is a resolution of the Board of Education of the Muhlenberg County, Kentucky School District approving a guaranteed energy savings contract with Train Incorporated and approving the plan of financing the cost of said project, confirming...
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. It's the next one.
The next one?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's the energy one.
Yeah, the bottom line.
Yeah,
Bottom-
on both of them.
Yeah, the other one you will do during the board
Rewind.
meeting. Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry.
I was doing such a good job reading that too.
Yeah, you did well. You won't have to do it during the board meeting now.
Okay, we'll do a different resolution. The Muhlenberg County School District Finance Corporation resolution, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Muhlenberg County School District Finance Corporation relating to and providing for the issuance of 7.255 principal amount, which may be increased or decreased by the amount of $725,500 of energy conservation revenue bonds, Series 2019, in accordance with sections 162.120 through 162.300 and 162.385 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes to provide funds for school building purposes, providing and determining the duty of said corporation in connection with the operation of the school property, the creation of funds sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said revenue bonds, as and when they mature, the creation of adequate maintenance and insurance funds, and authorizing the execution of a lease and other instruments with respect to such foregoing property with the Board of Education of the Muhlenberg County School District.
The only thing I might add to that is you might say, well, why do we have a flexible $725,000 figure? Let me assure you that won't be used. If the most flexibility you really need, and our bonds will be $5,000 or $10,000 one way or the other, because these bonds get issued in $5,000 denominations. So if the bids come in, these are all sold, by the way, at a bid. If the bids come in to get this amount of money, and based on the discount the broker takes, we may have to move a bond here one place, and that's a $5,000 bond, so it could go up or down 5 to 10. But the lawyers say it should be 10% flexibility. It's standard language, and it isn't going to happen. Let me tell you that. And the lease and the bond, it talks about lease and deed and all that. That's just stuff that lawyers do, and when we actually get ready to sell the bonds, we'll have to come here, and there will be a set of closing documents that the chairperson will sign, and it's just like the same concept if you've closed a loan on a house. They'll have to go through that stack of documents. And as you might imagine, as a loan on a house, they get thicker all the time. Any questions?
Is there any discussion?
You need a discussion and motion.
If not, I need a motion to approve the resolution. A motion by Mr. Gohar, second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of considering the resolution for revenue bonds with Ross Sinclair and Associates, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And
Thank you. I
motion to
appreciate your-
adjourn. Thank you. Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn this special meeting. Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Now we're going to go on, this is our regular board meeting, and I'll call that to order. And if everyone would join with me. stand and say our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the prior board meetings. Board members, you've had a chance to review these in your packets. There's no discussion, then I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Wells, second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of approving the minutes from the prior board meeting, say aye. All opposed? I hear none. Down to approving the agenda. Does anyone have any additions to the agenda or any changes? If not, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Wells and a second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, and we're down to recognitions. I think we might have a few. Carla?
Well, good evening, board members and all you guests that are nicely packed in here. We have with us tonight a few exceptional athletes who are members of our two Muhlenberg County Special Olympics teams. They have recently competed in the regional basketball tournament in Bowling Green, and both Muhlenberg County teams came home as regional champions.
Wow.
They will now compete at the state level next month in Louisville. The Muhlenberg County Mavericks are coached by Patty Williams and Caitlin Robinson. The Muhlenberg County Colts are coached by Miss Beth Casey and her son Nick Casey. 5 of the athletes are students, current students here in our district, and 1 is an employee here at the central office. So we're really, really excited, and I know you guys are really, really excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call your name, and I'm going to ask that you come up. And Mr. Davis, if you'll come down and give them a certificate. And I'd also like for our coaches to come up here because you guys put in a lot of time and effort. So if you all wouldn't mind to be in the picture with us. So Patty and Beth and Nick, if you all would mind to come up. Let's get our hand for our coaches. All right, and your certificates. I believe we have one out. I haven't seen Grayson. Have you seen Grayson? Okay. Okay, Grayson Dietrich is a senior at Muhlenberg County High School, and he is the son of Greg Dietrich and Christy Fleming. Now, I know that Mr. Zach Evitz is here. Zach, would you come down, please? Zach is an 8th grader at Muhlenberg South Middle and is the son of Kenneth Evitz and Kayla Evitz. Next, our big buddy, Mr. Caleb Ellis. Caleb is a 6th grader at Muhlenberg North Middle, and he is the son of Kirk and Kim Ellis and Chastity Murphy.
Former Bremen Eagle also.
Yes. Next, we have Miss Destiny Jennings. Destiny is a senior at Muhlenberg County High School and is the daughter of Charles Jennings and Sheila Cleaver. And then we have Mr. Jeremiah Brady. Jeremiah is a freshman at Muhlenberg County High School and is the son of C.J. Brady. And then we have Mr. Trey Shrewsbury. Trey is employed here at the central office and is the son of Jimmy and Cheryl Shrewsbury. And we have honorable mention with us tonight who have been former students here in Muhlenberg County. Miss Katie Williams is with us, and Mr. Jeffrey Evans is with us. So you all come on up and we'll do one group picture and then we'll go out in the hallway and take some pictures, please. Miss Penny, can you get them all?
Okay, my pink practice picture.
That's a coach right there.
Smile.
Great. Now, parents and family members of the team, we'll go out into the hallway, take some pictures, and then you all will be free to leave, okay? I'm going to now turn it over, our recognition portion, to Miss Edwina. She's got some special announcements and certificates to give. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you. I'm very excited to bring some students to speak to you this evening. I think when I tell you their names, you will realize that they have traveled quite a ways to end up at Muhlenberg Job Corps Center, and their story is really, really interesting and unique. We have Monswan Loon and Samuel Fanga. Y'all come right on up here so you can stand here and they'll be able to see you and you can see your slideshow.
Hello, my name is Mansala. I'm from Burma, and here's the agent. Now I live in Nashville. When I was 19 years, I come to the United States and for my opportunity to education. And so I was coming with my job corps and started for my high school and my song track. And I was blessing with the best teacher. He teach me a lot of, and I complete my high school and MOS medical office support. Now I'm going to back home and try looking to the job. Appreciate Muhlenberg Job Corps and thank you all my teacher, Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Shopper, and Ms. Collins. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Fanga. I'm from Rwanda, it's an African country, and I came to the United States when I was 18 years old. When I get in the United States, I did not know how to speak English, but I found out that I can go to Job Corps, and as soon as I get a Job Corps, I met with beautiful teacher here. They teach me a lot of things. They teach me how to speak English. Now I can speak English better. It's not better, but I have a lot of opportunity to. They gave me high school diploma. I work for it, and I completed my HEO certification is heavy equipment operator, and yeah, that's all I got.
That's a lot. Be careful, Eric may take his shoes.
I love this man's shoes. They're awesome.
We have to look.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all, this Muhlenberg County, for this opportunity. They gave me to have this good, successful. I take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
We presently have, guys, I want you to wait just a minute, I've got a surprise for you. We presently have 31 English as second language students on campus. Quite a few who don't speak English at all, who come to us don't speak English at all. So that's a challenge for us, but I tell you what, I couldn't ask for better help with Ms. Mitchell and Ms. Cobb, and they just put everything they have into it, and we learn from them so much. The slideshow you saw were pictures that were taken from our Job Corps graduation ceremony that happened this week, or last week, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, they have not received their high school diplomas yet. And I thought, what better time to let them have their high school diplomas than to do it tonight and let you get to see them do that and have the superintendent hand them to them.
That'd be an honor.
This is Mon Chuan Lin. And Samuel Fanga Fanga. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You did not
Okay, we'll move down to the treasurer's report. Mr. Blitzinger?
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman Rager, distinguished board members. Tonight I'm bringing you the financials as of January 31st. I apologize, it should be 2019. You can see that. All right, first we're going to start with the revenues. This month we had total monthly receipts of about $10.3 million. Within that, that's about $7.5 million up from last month and $7.2 million greater than the same period of last year. Our TVA checks fell at different times. SEEK has remained unchanged. Our federal cash reimbursement is at it's up $469,000. That's we were able to submit for our federal cash request. Our state is down about $165,000. Our taxes are up about $210,000. Other is down $152,000. Food service is down $63,000, and daycare is up $4,000. What you'll notice is the TVA payment was $7.2 million, which we did budget for $6.4. I'm still going to continue to do that. A lot of that has to do with the sales, and after this, I'm going to go into a little bit of a brief explanation on our TVA revenues and how they're received on that end. The expenditures. This month we had an accounts payable $768,873. That's up about $96,000 from the same period of last year. This is mainly in the construction column and our fund expenses. The significant bills in January, there's approximately a $62,000 payment to Old National Wealth Management, which is our debt service, and $47,880 to Preferred Construction Services. That was for the central office roof. Payroll is at $2.665 million. It's up $72,000 versus January of 2018. This year, our payroll expense on average about 3.2% higher year-to-date, which falls right in line because we had the 2.5% raise as well as the CERS increase. So we're trending right where we had expected. So the accounts payable breakdown, our fixed and mixed expenses, about $506,000. Utilities at almost $116,000. Again, this is where, after this energy project is done, we expect to see significant savings, because that's where we're going to get a lot of the bond payments that Dr. Tarwin was speaking about. Our variable expenses, $142,000. So that breakdown of the accounts payable, Again, about $765,000 of that general fund paid for about $500,000. Special revenue or Fund 2 is almost $54,000. Construction, almost $52,000. Debt service, almost $72,000. And food service and daycare is about $87,000. So the ledger balance at the close of the month is about 26.7. The bank balance, 18.5. Outstanding checks of almost 711,000, and the cash at about 18 million. And again, you'll see that go down over the course of time because we did receive the TVA payment. So you'll see it spike and then it starts to trend off later on. The breakdown of that cash balance of the 26.7, general fund is about 18.1. That's up about almost 7 million. Special revenue, it's at a negative 505,000. Again, these are payments that are in arrears. But it's almost 42,000 higher than the previous month. Construction's at 966,000. Debt service, again, we true that up at the end of the year, so it reflects that 71,000 payment. Food service is down 36,000, and daycare is up about 2,000. And our investments are at 8.715. So extended financial picture at the...
Eric.
Yes, sir.
Daycare, you add South Elementary too?
Say that again?
The daycare expense?
Yes, sir.
Is it there South?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. In June of 19, we expect to have about 17.8 in the bank. Again, that'll translate over into our beginning balance for the fiscal year 20. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the explanation of how our TVA funds. And this is strictly our in lieu of tax payments. Given what's happened in the last week or so, I kind of wanted to go over this so you all had an understanding, and the public had an understanding of where our in lieu of payments. This is not reflective on the enrollment, which is really where I think a lot of my hesitation on anything with TVA comes into play. So our in lieu of payments, just a quick overview. Section 13 of the TVA Act requires TVA that pay the tax equivalent payments, basically what we would get from property taxes. So, and it's in the states that TVA has operations. Right now, there's 9 of them in the southeastern region. The power operations are determined to be carried out by TVA, the power sales, and the property. So the payments are a blend of the sales and the property that are within that state. There's 99 in Kentucky, and these are the states that TVA currently resides. There's Kentucky, Illinois, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So, first step is how do the funds get to Kentucky? Again, they take the sales of those 9 states, and then they look at the assets within those states. And it's a 50-50 equation. So 50% of the money that comes to our state is the ratio, or not, excuse me, not the ratio, but it's 50% of sales, 50% the assets. What they do is they take that and that wedge is what comes to Kentucky. So, for instance, Alabama last year lost an entire facility, so their piece of the pie went down a little bit. Ours gained a little bit. Now, I expect ours to shrink down a little bit again, which is kind of why we have continued to budget for that $6.4 million, which TVA, in my discussion with them, are still feel comfortable with that. And that's a twofold answer on that, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So 5% of gross power sales for the prior fiscal year are paid to all TVA states. So of all the sales for TVA, they take 5% of that, and they give that to these 9 states. Again, it's that 2-step process. It's based on 50% of the assets. and then 50% of the sales. So once it gets to Kentucky, it's a little bit, it's not as an easy equation when it gets to Kentucky.
Why should it be?
Of course, nothing's easy in that respect. But what the state does is they take that cut off the top. Now, originally, the state held those funds for the General Assembly, but what they do now is those funds are distributed back to the counties that have TVA power plants, and that's used for economic development. So it just as it states. So then they also, so when we get to those funds in Muhlenberg County, they take, based on your tax revenue, or excuse me, your tax rate, the assets in that county, and the tangible personal property and the real estate tax amount. And they take a ratio of that, and they calculate that for every county that has TVA assets. So in 2015, which was the most recent I had at that point, was 28.62. So again, that year, I believe we received about 6.2 million, just offhand. The next closest county received about 4 million. So we're well above every other county. So, those are the kinds of things that we're very, very fortunate to have those. With that said, in the last couple of years, they've built a gas plant. Those assets have been put on the books, which is part of the bump that you've seen in our recent payments, as well as they've had some record sales years. So when it's really hot in the summer and it's really cold in the winter, their sales go up. That benefits us. The other thing that really was one that I hadn't really realized is when we did take the 4%, that did actually help us out. Now, it didn't help us out this year, but when they calculate for 2018, the 2018 fiscal year, they're going to take that tax rate that we moved it up, and it's going to factor into that ratio. Does that make sense? I know Kentucky is a far more convoluted process than the 50% sales and 50% assets. So in my discussions with the state, when they talk about the assets for us, that only accounts for 30% of that wedge. So when we see that decrease in the assets out at Paradise, it's going to affect that 30% wedge, which is why the in lieu of payments are not my immediate concern. The immediate concern for me, as well as Mr. Freeman and everyone else, is the enrollment. So in the surrounding jobs, not just the jobs that are located there, it's everything that surrounds it. So those are the things that we're looking at. I kind of wanted to just briefly discuss that with you and ask if you guys had any questions or anything that needed clarifying. And I apologize, the Kentucky State ratio, I've asked for that formula, and I haven't really been successful in getting the actual formula. But I hope it's clear as mud now.
It's very helpful, thank you.
I think we all had some questions about that after the announcement.
And really, it's a huge concern for us still. We're going to be mindful of our funds. That's kind of why we keep an eye on where our funds are. Our cash balance. The fact that we have what we have now is going to help mitigate this impact.
The difficulty is projecting exactly how much, how hurt we're going to get with enrollment and tax base. And if there's 130 jobs, well, not all of them are in Muhlenberg County, and not all of the ones who may leave have kids in our system. But it's also hard to project with coal miners and boilermakers and truck drivers. How many of those will be affected? We'll be losing some employees who will be leaving with their spouses. And so that's what we're trying to get a handle on. And this is going to be something that over time, you're just going to kind of see it over time more than that one check. And, already our enrollment is dropping. So this is going to accelerate that. And as we try to project it and have those conversations, it's like we don't have enough data to make that projection, make an accurate projection. We just know we're going to be hit. And we're just kind of trying to brace ourselves for that and still work to get better numbers and better projections. Lee can tell you, Mr. Freeman can tell you what the projections were for enrollment over without any changes here. We had a projection. But now, that's going to change in a way that I can't say it's going to be 30 kids or 40 kids. We just don't know. So we're going to be very mindful, and some of it we can kind of halfway predict, honestly, and some of it we just don't know.
And some of the modeling that I've given to you all in the past, I try to be conservative on the decrease in enrollment, in that I try to over-project the decrease in enrollment. My discussions with Mr. Freeman actually as of late say, I have over-predicted a little bit on the decrease in enrollment, which will benefit us when they true the SEEK payment up at the end of the year. If everything holds true, we should get a little bump, which, for us, it's good, so we're not having to adjust our budget down. I'd rather adjust the budget up than down. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any discussions? No. If not, I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And we're down to payment of bills and salaries. Mr. Boltsinger.
Thank you again. This month I bring $738,555,000 to you in board bills, $85,000 as utilities, fixed and mixed expenses about $572,000. The majority of that is debt service. There was a $504,000 debt service payment, so a lot of that went to principal, which is great. So, and then variable expenses were $81,000. Again, that's $365,800 was a debt service payment. All the significant checks this month were debt service. $85,000, $32,000, and $14,000, all for Old National Wealth Management.
All right, any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve payment of bills and salaries. Motion by Mr. Bowers.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of paying bills and salaries, say aye. All opposed? I hear none. Thank you. Down to public participation, and we had no one. So we'll go on down to the superintendent report by Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Rager, board members. Principals, do we have any students here? I don't think we do tonight, so we're going to go ahead and hold you guys back just a little bit. I'll let Jimmy get that and see if that's a student. I'm sorry. I'm going to let Joe Cooper's going to speak to you just for a minute about there's some opportunities for us to do maybe a summer feeding program, and there are some concerns about that too, because of churches are doing it now and they have a little more flexibility. Anyway, Joe Cooper, who wants students fed more than anybody I've ever known, she wanted an opportunity to talk to you guys just a little bit about the pros and cons.
Chairman Rager and board members, thank you. As Mr. Davis said, the only thing I want to do is feed kids. And we have had a summer feeding program in the past. When we had summer school, we did it at the schools. The thing with the summer feeding program, and I would love to do one, the students have to get to us. If I do one, I will do 3. I will have one at Central City Elementary, I will do one at South Elementary, and I will do one at Longest. The problem is getting the kids to us. With the churches, and we have so many churches here in the county that do a sack lunch program, they actually go to the homes or have places and they meet up with the kids and they give them their meals. they don't have any kind of regulations like I will have to have. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the churches don't want me to partner with them, is because if they do, we have to use the federal guidelines, we have to keep a production record, we have to keep up, make sure everything is done right, and have to have a review and all of that, and it's a lot of work for them, and I understand that. I don't mind to do a summer feeding program, but I'm afraid that if we do one, then the churches won't, and then I'm going to miss a lot of kids, and there will be some hungry kids this summer. I am going to a training at Kentucky Dam on March the 6th to find out exactly, what we can do, and I want to also talk to the churches and make sure they're still willing to do what they do, because I don't want any kid to be hungry this summer. And like I said, the churches here have done a phenomenal job all over the county, not just here in Greenville and Central City, but, in Bremen area and the Beechmont, Dunmore area, and I do appreciate them very much. But whenever you're questioned, why don't we do one, I just wanted you all to know why we haven't in the past. I mean, we did in the past, and it wasn't very successful. But the reason why I haven't done it in a few years is because I just don't want to miss any kids. And if you all have any questions, please feel free to call me at any time, and my door is always open.
What is this training going to help you with?
Excuse me?
This training you're going for, what is that going to help?
Well, I just want to find out, if
What
I
is the way to go out
and I've got to find out how many employees I have to have. I've got to find out, make sure that my sites are acceptable, which I know they will be because they're in the schools and things like that. But anything else? Any other questions?
So if the churches are not offering this, is there a way maybe they could provide somehow transportation for or can they
You can't do that. See, that's the problem. Okay, I'll give you an example. Say Penny's Church, which they do a great job. They go out and they give out the kids their lunches. They don't have to market. They don't have to keep up with it. They don't even have to make sure that the child gets it. The mom can be there to get them, and that's great. With me, because it's a federal program, I have to make sure that child gets that meal, and I have to keep a record of it. And then I have to turn that in to the state to get reimbursed for those meals. I also have to prove that those meals have a grain, a dairy, not too much sodium, not too many calories. Where the church, they don't have to follow any of those guidelines. And they do a good meal, I'm not saying they don't, but there's no restrictions for them. If someone gives them a case of Dr. Pepper and they want to give the kids one, they can, which is great, but I can't do those kinds of things. Ms. Bard?
I believe that Bremen may have done a summer feeding program in 2010, maybe?
Whenever there was the last summer school.
That was it, right. I don't recall that many families coming because a lot of them didn't have transportation to get there.
And the thing is, it is open to every child from 18 years old and younger. You don't have to be in any kind of program. Any child can walk in and say, I want a meal, and we give them a meal. It's really hard to prepare because you don't know if you're going to have 100 kids or if you're going to have 10 kids. But I just didn't want the board to think that I didn't want to do a feeding program, because I do. I would love to have a huge one. I wish that Mr. Davis would buy me a food truck and I could just drive.
Time is up.
And I would drive around. So
I like the way you think.
But anyway, like I said, if you ever have any questions, please, and we may do this. I may go to this training and they'll say, okay, we can, the churches can work together and we'll see what we can do.
We can take it out of Jimmy's budget.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I have a couple gentlemen here tonight that's going to talk about a program we had, or a grant we received from Felix Martin Foundation. I want to give them credit. It was based on the Aspiring Administrators Program I know you've heard a little bit about back in the fall. And I'll let Fred and Dave come up here and talk about just talk about the whole thing. They led this, their former principals, and I think it was very, very useful. The participants spoke very highly of these two gentlemen and how the program went. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's something maybe we'll look into again next year. But I wanted them to take a few minutes and kind of review you of what some of our folks are doing as we try to develop our own leaders. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Yes, I'm Fred Reeves, and this is my business partner, David Johnson. We'll be real honest and say we're both from Owensboro. Hope you won't throw a rock at us. We're both Owensboro High School graduates. I'm also a Murray State graduate, too, by the way, and a lot of y'all are, so maybe that'll get me some points. We had the wonderful opportunity to come here and work in the school district this year. In my work in the past, I've worked with over 100 school districts all across the country. And I'm going to tell you, you need to get down and kiss the ground that your kids go to school here. This is a phenomenal school district by any measure you want to measure. I can't speak highly enough of Mr. Davis's leadership, how he cares about the children, how he cares about his principals, how he cares about his teachers and staff. You have tremendous principals. We've worked with all of your principals. Every one of them has a great heart and really wants to do whatever they can do to help their students. Essentially what we did is Mr. Davis offered the opportunity for anybody in the district that would like to go through some leadership training to apply and be selected. And we did about 6 sessions, probably about 20-some hours that we did basic leadership training. There are certain components to leadership about how do you solve a conflict between staff members, how do you plan, how do you understand people's personality. There's a variety of things that are pretty standard in leadership, which is what we did. We had as fine of people as you could possibly have participated. Some were currently in leadership positions. Some were teachers who aspired to leadership positions. And we had a lady who I was really impressed with as a librarian, said, I just want to be a better librarian. And I thought this would help me. And I thought, that's really a neat thing to do that. So we worked with them for, like I say, these sessions. They were all good participants and really worked hard, and we enjoyed the time we spent with them. Your school district is in good hands. I will tell you, is there any press here? Well, they aren't. We had a tough time finding a middle school principal in Owensboro a couple years ago. In fact, it hadn't fully been resolved yet. If you had a middle school opening right now, I promise you've got 10 good candidates to pick from, because you have people who have dedicated themselves to being prepared. They want to do it. They want to contribute. So if you have a vacancy and those things occur in time, you'll have good candidates in every instance for Mr. Davis and for the schools to select from. So that's really a neat thing to have, because most school districts don't have those people like that. And I think they do that because they care about the district, they care about the kids, and they know that they're going to be in a good role. They're going to be in a role that's supported by Mr. Davis and by this board. And so to that, we congratulate you. Mr. Johnson will tell you a little bit of the kind of things that we did with them. So.
Fred covered most of it. I think there's something that's even more important, that when we go in schools, because all of our experiences are within public schools, that's where we spend our whole career. And when we go in schools, we're somewhat critical because we were school people. I worked at my last 15 years were at the central office. So I know when I go into schools, I look for what are kids doing, how do adults interact with kids, how do adults that are leading the school, how do they interact with other adults coming in, how are you greeted when you come into the school. It was easy. Our participants in the program are great. I think the thing you need to know as the elected body who's responsible for the school system, when we walked in, and we were in almost every school, we were treated like we were family when we walked in by the staff. We saw nothing but professionalism, and we've been to some places where we saw some things that made you swallow hard. And we asked to come here because we wanted to talk to you. If we didn't have anything good to say, we wouldn't have come, and we don't say this to everyone we meet with. But your administrative staff you have in your schools right now, I'd put them up against any place I've ever been. I mean, they're that good. They treated us with so much respect, and they didn't know us. We were outsiders coming in. They're top of the line, Mr. Davis and his staff, working with them. So it was a great program. We got as much out of it as they did. My parents graduated from Greenville High School, so my family's from over here. But I'd never worked much with the school system and didn't know neither of us really knew what to expect. But we sing your praises everywhere we go. And you've got a great deal to be proud of. You should be proud to be on this board because it's a fine school system. If you all have any questions, we know the UK game comes on soon. We were going to be quick and brief. Everybody's looking at their watch.
We got some Louisville fans that lost.
I want to make one final comment. Again, you need to be proud. In most school districts, you have a great deal of jealousy between this school and that school. You don't have it here. These schools are proud of each other, and they cooperate, and they like each other. They want, Longest wants South to do well, and Bremen wants Central City to do well. They all know it's a partnership. It's a district here, so you need to be very proud of that, because that's not present in very, very many places. So, again, we thank you for the opportunity to work here. Thank the Felix Martin Foundation for paying our bills for us, okay? And we, especially, really enjoyed working for you, and that gentleman is going to take you places, so we'll get out of your way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Notice I didn't cut them off. Thanks, Dave. Just a couple more things before we get into the principals part here. We need to set up some site-based presentations. I'll be getting with you guys maybe sometime in March. We'll try to get around tournaments, even if we have to wait till the end of March or something, but we'll be working on that. Flu's hitting us, and Lee, you're probably going to get into that in a little bit. Are you going to talk that a bit? I'll just leave that up to him, but our numbers are, we're not shut down mode, but and I think maybe today was a little bit of a bounce back. So we're hopeful. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but it's definitely in each school. And the legislative session is going on, and it's kind of quiet with the pension. Basically, we've heard next to nothing. So I would be surprised if anything is done in this session. And of course, that still means something probably needs to be done, or something's going to happen down the road. But as of right now, it's just very quiet. So I'll update you on anything as we get it. But we're just not hearing a lot. We're tracking some bills. But nothing like the pension bill of the previous session that will rattle us. So that's kind of where we are with that. So at this point, we'll turn it over to our principals. Is Ms. Sheffield still here? Does she do her entire part there? Okay, we'll move on, and we'll start with Alex from the Renaissance Center.
So kind of talking about Jonathan, due to the weather, our trip in January was postponed to this past week on Tuesday. I took 6 kids out. 2 of those guys have started the application process. We kind of toured the facility. We saw the academic complex, the dorms, and then we went and looked at the trades. So it was good for those guys. They hear about it, we talked about it, and then they actually got to see it. So I know E-Coach is familiar, Ms. Bumps and her staff are familiar, but on Tuesday, February the 6th, Ms. Gail Johnson, the program manager from Muhlenberg Chief, came to our school and met with the 7 MOVE seniors that we have. This program is designed to help seniors transition successfully from high school to college or career training. Muhlenberg Chiefs recruits high school seniors and matches them with a trained, background check community member who shares their students' interests and understands their goals. Each volunteer agrees to assist 1 to 2 students from March of their high school year, senior year, until the spring semester of their higher education, whether that be working toward work certifications, 2 or 4-year colleges. Of the 7 MOVE seniors, all 7 have enrolled in that program, bringing the total for Muhlenberg County to 98, which is a third of our senior population, according to Ms. Johnson. So very thankful for her that she didn't forget about us and gave our kids the option too. And I'm happy for those 7 students. And then lastly, talking about the MOVE program, we had 3 more students this week who completed their graduation requirements to March in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. Ms. Bumps, the County High School.
Yes, and I know we're limited on time on a lot of these, but there's been lots of great things happen in the high school, and I'll try to get through my 10 items. Sorry, everyone, very quick. But our academic team just finished up their season. Unfortunately, none of the students were able to move on to state, but they did represent Mustang Nation very well at regionals. And I want to definitely give a shout out to Janet and Jonathan Steele, as well as Lindsay Benton, the coaches of the academic team and future problem-solving team, for a lot of hard work and dedication, because that is a thankless job a lot of times for their hard work. Shout out to our cheerleaders. You know, this is just our third year competing at nationals ever in Muhlenberg County history, even when it was 7 schools. We actually had 2 teams to compete this year. Our small varsity team finished 19th out of 80 teams. We made it to the semifinals, first time ever. And again, just our third year of that, so quite proud of them. And we barely missed finals, literally by just a couple of points. And then our other group of, our other squad, our game day squad, again, did rather well. This is our first year even competing in that particular area. And they too missed finals just by a hair. So quite proud, and they too represented Mustang Nation well. You've already seen our Special Olympics students, obviously, and you heard that some of them are some of our students at the high school, and I still like to give Trey a hard time because of some of the gear that he wears, and you saw that nasty looking shirt that he had on tonight. But I do want to thank Beth Casey for a lot of hard work and dedication, and she drafts her kids. Nick, former Mustang alum, just graduated, as well as her daughter Kristen. They do a lot of work. They'll transition right from basketball right into softball, so she's to be commended with that, as well as many other volunteers, but I do get to see her every day with that. As always, safety is a high priority. We continue to practice our lockdowns. We always find something else that we need to work on. But I do want to, as I did last time, continue to give a big shout out to Mr. Drake, Mr. Albro, Mr. Miller, and as well as all our local law enforcement and state law enforcement. They continue to come into the buildings. The kids feel safer when they continue to come in. The staff feels safer, and all that together makes me feel better that our kids feel safe. So just can't thank them enough for continuing to do that. I will be participating in Madisonville Community College First Impressions Day on March the 25th. That's part of our, we continue with our essential skills or our soft skills push here in our district. We're at Muhlenberg County High School. We're going to try to host our own. We had planned that really for early March, but after speaking with Brittany and Janet through Madisonville, we decided that maybe it might be best that I participate in theirs first, and then what can we take from that to make ours more successful. And so I may be calling on some of you to come in and help us out with that. And what that day essentially is really coming in, talking to our students about resume building, how the first impression is the biggest impression when they walk into an interview. If they're down and they're looking at their phone, that's not going to set a very good impression on the people that's interviewing. So excited about that opportunity. If you don't have anything to do tomorrow night, we are hosting district basketball this week at West Campus. Our girls are not playing tonight. It's actually McLean County and Ohio County girls playing as we speak. But our boys did get a big win last night. So they will be competing tomorrow night in the district championship, tip off at 6:30. And then our Lady Mustangs compete Thursday night in the championship game at 6:30 against the winner of tonight's game. Tanner Robards will be competing at State Swim this weekend. So proud of Tanner and all the accomplishments. She broke many of her own personal records at regions recently. And just to throw it out there, Tanner's the daughter of Todd and Nona Robards, and just very excited about Tanner being able to go there. And we had some other kids to compete rather well at regionals. Again, just unfortunately, numbers are limited on who gets to compete at state, but Tanner is able to be able to represent us at state. I can't continue to say enough about our Friskies, especially with the snow days. They continue to meet the needs of our kids, and again, another thankless job with them. And as Mr. Davis said, Joe Cooper wants every kid to be fed, and something else, and I hate that she's not here. She always asks, what are some of the things that the kids like to eat so that we maybe can serve it more often. You know, Wing Wednesday is one of our popular days at the high school. I think a lot of times that's when you'll see the law enforcement there too. You wouldn't believe the number of kids that just love chili and grilled cheese sandwiches. So I take a lot of that feedback to her, and she makes that happen. And the kids really appreciate the fact that they are being heard by some of those suggestions. So she's to be commended. And then last but certainly not least, I know I've said it before, but Kim Dukes and Tim Abbott in our transportation department talk about for sure a thankless job, because you're never, it's kind of like Mr. Davis's job, you're not ever going to make everybody happy when it comes to a snow day, but I do appreciate them always putting safety first when it comes to our kids, because it's never an easy job to make the decision of saying your kids can't go to this event or whatever else. So I definitely want to give them a shout out too. That's my report.
Thank you. And I'll just follow that up for a second. Kim, Tim, and the crew there, they're just amazing. And on the snow days when I'm stressed and what this, and Kim just is steady, and they just got it under. We've done this before. We'll be fine. And but it's absolutely thankless what they do, the hours they put in, the super long hours, and it takes me a long time to recover from one of those early mornings, and they just go. I can't say enough about them. That's true for so many. I hate to say one and leave other folks out, but those folks in particular during the winter, hats off to them. Mr. Rager from Limburg North Middle.
We had 10 students qualify to compete at the Governor's Cup Regional Academic Competition. We actually had 2 students advance to the state. Scotty Tubb placed first in Arts and Humanities in the region, and Emma Ferris placed second in Composition. And I'd like to recognize the coaches, Miss Maria Perkins and Lori Kelton. They do an awesome job with our academic team. Also, our boys basketball team are the GRVC champions, so for the 8th grade boys, and 7th grade boys were the GRVC runner-up. Beta Convention, our students represented North Middle in the district very well. 2nd place in campaign skit, 3rd place in trading pin, technology, service, and scholarship philanthropy. 4th place apparel design, 5th place living literature. Jess Robinson actually had a welded sculpture placed first, so I'll have pictures of that in the district highlights. 4th, and Jess also placed 4th in jewelry design. We had a mother-daughter night, February the 12th. We had the reigning Miss Kentucky, Katie Bouchard, come. She's actually from Davis County, and she came and shared her 3 key points to success with the girls and their mothers, and they were able to make a painted canvas, and they had a photo opportunity with Miss Kentucky. They got to wear the sash, and the girls were just smiling from ear to ear as far as that goes. School safety, we have a new school resource officer, Brock Mefford. He's doing an awesome job at North Middle. It's kind of like he's always been there. So he's there every day, interacting with the kids and just helping us do what needs to be done in the realm of safety. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rager. Mr. Lyle, South Middle.
Recently, we had a situational awareness PD with Wes Miller and Darren Albro leading that, so big thanks to those 2 guys for doing that. Situational awareness is being aware of your surroundings, and that morning we actually laid several backpacks in different locations around the building just to see if staff would catch them, and every one of them, the staff handled it right. They didn't go pick them up, but they reported them to the front office. Didn't know how that would turn out, but it turned out real well. Thankful for our staff, and again for Wes and Darren for doing a great job. Recently we had our reality store, which is for our 7th grade, and our junior achievement for our 8th grade. Big shout out to our family resource centers and our community volunteers who came and gave up their time to help our students. Had a lot of feedback from some of the volunteers on the soft skills that our students displayed, which obviously makes us very proud of our students. On February 28th, we have our Thank You Thursday. That will be for our maintenance crew, our mowing crew, as well as our central office custodians. So we'll be having them with us on February 28th. Feel free to stop in with us on that day. Shout out to our high school math teachers, North and South Middle School math teachers. They've been getting together a lot here lately. Just last week, the high school math teachers came and visited us at South Middle, and then we're going to be going out to them in the near future as well. Just that communication is huge. We've had a lot. I say a lot. We had one PD already. We're going to have another one on Thursday for North and South math and language arts teachers. Just good conversations happening, so can't say enough about that. And the last one I have is not about South Middle. Last one I have is as a parent. Big shout out to the high school. I've been to 2 parent nights for my junior and then my freshman, and just great information that comes from those. As a parent, very proud for them. Thank you, Ms. Bonus.
Thank you, Mr. Law. Mr. Sharp from Bremen, I believe your son's added to the flu list. Is that correct?
Yes, he is, but I'm good, I promise. I'm gonna try to give it to Jerry.
I'm sitting
School safety updates, we got a new camera system in our front door, thanks to Jimmy for doing that. We're looking for ways, the new SRO, Brett Robertson and I are looking at ways to work on the pod doors that cut through each pod, so we're going to talk to the fire marshal about those and get some feedback from him on that. We just recently went, we just had a PD today. Of course, I wasn't there because my son was sick, but we got out the old questioning and engagement thing, PD. We've done that a couple years ago, and we had some staff members who want to get them updated on that. So I'm sure it was a good PD today. Second place in Governor's Cup, our academic team, so we're really proud of them for placing second place. And they won the quick recall competition, so that was really good for them. The beat longest over here. Sorry, Brent. Just messing with you. Soft skills. We're trying to teach soft skills every day. We teach those. We have one a week. We go over Ron Clark's Central 55, Eagle Pride Assembly. We talk about certain soft skills. Our STLP team does one student stands in front of the whole assembly and explains a soft skill, whether it be eye contact, dressing professionally, and they're working on ways like a drama skit for each one. So the fifth graders are prepping for the Wax Museum of American History. That's March 21st. You all can come out and join us. Ms. Bowles, Ms. French, and Ms. Moore are doing a great job with that. This is a big time for growth for our students. It's a long stretch with not a lot of breaks, but we try to tell our teachers that this is a time they can grow, and continuing to teach mental and emotional wellness. Guidance counselor and myself are doing various lessons for 4th and 5th grade students.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Ms. Hicks, Central City.
It's been a whirlwind of a tour this last month, and I mean that literally. I'll get into that more. I do want to give a shout out to the transportation department. Bus drivers and monitors, they do an awesome job. They often alert us things that they see when they're going to homes to deliver and pick up children, which is helpful for us to follow up on in the school day, and we appreciate that so much. We've installed 4 free libraries. We did that over some of our snow days in the halls. This is another opportunity to put books in the hands of our students. It's on the honor system, and all these books are donated. So we encourage students to take one, read it, and bring it back. But if they don't bring it back, then that's just another book they have at home. So, and those books are donated, gently used books that are brought in. We have enjoyed a visit from the WKU Confucius Institute bus. They was there at our school on Monday, February 4th. All the students in the building got to tour that bus and learn about traditional Chinese dress, medicine, inventions, instruments, and toys. On Tuesday of that same week, we had our student recognition, which also coincided with the Chinese New Year. So we had our annual New Year parade and brought out Gua, our dragon. And then on Wednesday of that week, we had our multicultural fair. We did a little differently this year. Each grade level took one country to present. They researched that country. They set up their own presentation area in the hallway. They grabbed their passports, and they went around on a world tour. They went to Australia, France, China, Mexico, Italy, and Egypt this year. And students presented to the other students. So they really worked on their soft skills to present for their presentations, making eye contact and using a welcoming tone and clarity of speech. And I am proud to report that all of our students went around the world, had safe travels, returned safely, and got 6 stamps in their passport. Our panic button has been installed and has been tested. There were a couple of kinks, but thanks to our capable tech guys, we think we got them worked out. And coming up this Thursday night is our family math night. And then the last week of this month is Read Across America Week, and we have activities planned for each day that week. So, busy time.
Thank you, Ms. Higgs. I'll jump in there on the safety thing a little bit. I may have Matt a bit too, but we also need to thank Jimmy, Chad, all these guys are really involved with safety, with installing things, be it the technology part or just the mirrors that are putting up now. Talk about the mirrors that we're putting up, Matt, just for a second. This is an idea from, I think, actually 2 or 3 different of our employees, or maybe even a visitor there.
Yeah, one of our parents actually brought it up. Just real quickly, we are also installing just multi-directional mirrors that you see in different areas. For example, in the hall or in the stairwells at the high school, any place where we have kids that go up and down, it sometimes can be a little bit of a hidden spot, and the kids don't like them, but that's all right, because we can stand out in the hallway and teachers can actually see, or whoever's on duty can see what's going on there. It's also nice during traffic times when there's a lot of kids coming up and down the steps. You can see if there's somebody coming up and around. So it's been a nice benefit. It's really a low-cost item. They last forever. They're indestructible, made out of plexiglass, and it's just one more layer of a way that we can be more conscientious about safety. And we've got a lot of things going on. That's why I'm talking with the guys out here, even during the meeting, and updating stuff. We have people coming in tomorrow. We've got radios now here at the board. We're going to put another channel in there tomorrow that we can all talk privately on it. So there's lots of things that we're working on, and it just never stops. And it's a good thing.
It's an ongoing conversation, even if we don't bring it up every time. And just like bringing the mirrors in. Well, that's great. Well, now Jimmy's guys have to put them up. And so panic buttons, well, that's great. Now Chad's guys, we're tying them up. But everybody's jumping in and doing that. So I did want to bring that up. Ms. Jones, Greenville Elementary.
Well, things have been extremely busy at GES. A lot of great things going on. The 100th day of school was celebrated, of course, on February 5th. A variety of activities. One of my personal favorites we started last year, continued this year, goal of getting 100 compliments. We well surpassed that, so my office door is plastered with Post-it notes, so those are fun to see daily. We also continue positive office referrals, and that's a good way for teachers to spotlight the students, their use of soft skills and things going on in the classroom. So very excited about that. Junior Beta Club had their induction last night. We have 51 students that are current members of the 1819 Beta Club. Sheriff Allen was our guest speaker for the ceremony. The students demonstrated their speaking skills as they played a big part throughout the program. 5th grader Jocelyn No, I have today, I want to show you her t-shirt design. That's one of the first projects that they participate in, is a t-shirt design contest where they decide the shirt and then it was selected. It was actually announced last night, so the students didn't even know what their t-shirt would look like until that was announced at the ceremony. So that's a neat surprise for them. Very appreciative of April Howe and April Calso, our 2 sponsors for the Junior Beta Club. Archery team is having an outstanding season. They have met and surpassed many of their personal goals each week, and it's very exciting to see how excited they are when they come back. They, of course, participated in regionals last weekend. They were invited to a 3D tournament Saturday night. Russellville did an excellent job. Came back with a 3rd place plaque, which was excellent because many of them, first time they had ever done that. So the archers there were very impressed at their achievements that night. So academic team could not be more proud. Our academic team actually travels to North Butler this year for district competition, and very proud. We have a brand new coach. April Calso is a new coach this year. She was very excited. They came back 1st overall for their district. The quick recall team was runner-up. Composition, I had 1st place at Haley Childs. I do have to brag on her. The coach there said it was college level writing, so I do have to brag on Miss Haley for that. Language arts, Aiden Vick was 3rd place. Catherine Kidd was 4th place. Arts and humanities, Catherine Kidd was 1st place. Haley Childs was 2nd place. In math, Will Oates was 1st place and Aiden Vick was 3rd. Social studies, Cameron Hambrick was 2nd place. And our future problem solving team was 1st place. So you can see we had a really good showing a few weeks ago with that. As far as safety, like the other schools, we have the new camera at our front door, thanks to the maintenance crew. Chad and the tech guys were over this afternoon as we were working on panic, but it's working good what it's supposed to be doing, but just tweaking a few things that we're working on. So appreciate them. We are working real closely with our new SRO, Brent Robertson, and of course Wes Miller is very gracious to come over occasionally from South Middle as well, and Black Hawk Academy is going strong with that. Looking forward, February 28th, I invite you all to come out. We have a children's author and storyteller coming 5:30 that evening at Greenville, so please join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hardison, longest, you have a chance to rebuttal with Mr. Sharp.
Like we said, Greenville and a few schools, it's interesting how the districts are split up, but we are in the 15th district there in the academic team. I do want to send a shout out to Coach Davis and the academic team there at Longest. They earned their 4th title this year, so very good job for them. They had a very successful season. A lot of individual awards there in their written tests, and we've had a very competitive season throughout the year, so very, very proud of their effort. It's amazing what those kids do on a daily basis. We've had a number of other competitions going. We've had Art Conservation Project, and we just got word that Madeline Lee, our 4th grader, she won the overall recognition there in the district, so very excited about that. We're enjoying Career Fair Day at Longest today. Our 5th graders did a project on a career that they researched and prepared for. Throughout the day, they presented to their 5th grade teachers to be evaluated, and they also went to visiting classrooms around the building, so each student at Longest got to see a 5th grader present on a career. And so that was a good school-wide effort. Tonight, we had an open house for all those 5th grade presentation boards. And so a 30-minute open house followed by the top 3 students, and they had we had Levi Coyne. You may know Levi. He was our speaker at last month's meeting here, and Levi, he won our competition for our career fair. 2nd place was Owen Halcomb, and 3rd place Lily Cheney. You've met Miss Lily. She sang one of the Star Spangled Banner at one of the recent games. I think she was even going to do it again at the district game. So Lily's an amazing talent. We had a surprise visitor today from Jump Rope for Heart. They wanted to bring by a banner and recognize our PE department for earning, joining the $100,000 club status. So I'm very proud of that. Ms. McGill does an outstanding job promoting Jump Rope for Heart and other health things, but also raising funds for those good causes. Today in the building, thanks to Martin Foundation, we had art detectives in the building from Louisville. They were visiting many 4th grade classrooms, and we saw a lot of excited kids, and teachers said the activity was very, very, very positive. This is Love the Bus Month, so we've had a number of opportunities for kids to do some artwork and share with their bus drivers how much they care about them and appreciate them. We can't say enough about the effort our bus transportation department does to take care of our kids and to also just provide a safe way back and forth from school, and we do appreciate the professionalism you guys provide. Talk about soft skills. We continue to enjoy our soft skills each Monday morning at our Monday assembly. Soft skills with McGill, it's like a little game show segment, and we've done segments on respecting adults, eye contact, how to behave during a pledge or Star Spangled Banner, just common social skills that we're teaching these kids, and then teachers follow those up throughout the day. It's amazing just the difference between how behavior was before and how it is now. Just at morning greetings, I'm out there opening doors, and students will stop and they'll look me in the eye and they'll ask me about my day, and it's really neat the behavior changes we're seeing in our students, and I bet that's happening across the whole district. So it is exciting to see. One final word on school safety. A couple things at Longest I want to just brag on. We've recently installed new cameras at Longest. The tech department guys did a great job on Christmas break getting those installed. We've already put those to good use, reviewing a couple discipline cases. not only were we able to solve those discipline cases we were looking into, we solved a couple extra ones we saw in the background of the video that was also, the communication that we've improved around the building is with the radios has been outstanding, and you hear us chatter all day long, and it's, I don't know how we survived before, so the radios have been a great improvement on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. And talking about, back to the buses again, how many buses do we have on the road every morning and afternoon?
We got 62 routes.
All right, and the fact that like with the flooding and they're having to reroute a couple roads of flood and you know, maybe seeing that again tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Just the way that they handle it, and you guys rarely hear anything, speaks to not just these folks here, but all of our drivers, you know, and when it's the other day going home early and we got home just before it got a little bit dicey, but you know, they just handle that all the time, and you're not getting text after text, got to this, got to that. That just speaks how, that's 86 buses and 62 routes. So, you know, that's pretty good. We're pretty fortunate. And Mr. Wells, finish this up, please. South Elementary.
Good evening. Our Jump Rope for Heart was last Friday. We raised $3,309. The Beta Club has sponsored the Penguin Plunge that was going to take place this last weekend. It's been postponed, but anyway, our school has raised $820 for that. The Beta Club is also collecting bottle tops for a buddy bench, which will be on the playground at our school. We had breakfast with principals last Friday. The main topics were school safety, and our parents are very pleased with the improvements that we've made at our school and our campus. We also talked about soft skills and essential skills that we're doing from time to time on the school news. We had a laser show yesterday as an assembly. Kids really enjoyed that. Talent show auditions were today. We've got scrimmages set up for grades 2 through 5 next week. Last week we celebrated with Valentine's parties. This week we're going to cut up deer hearts in 5th grade. We're looking forward to that. We'll have a lot of kids on Friday.
You can't just work that in there like you didn't say that.
Thanks a lot. Balloon lift-off will be in a few weeks. We're going to have more balloons that go up this year than we've ever had because our theme this year is the greatest. We've got 2 family night events coming up, a book fair in the next couple of weeks, and a huge shout out to our custodians with all the parties and all the weather we've had lately. They spend a lot of time keeping the building clean, and then we just track it right up. And I tell them it's job security, just part of it, but they do a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And that's an extended version of Superintendent's report. I wanted to get some of those things in, so I apologize for the length, but I wanted to get Joe in, I want to get those folks in. So that does conclude my Superintendent's report.
I was just going to say, I did see on the news this morning on the shout-out, sunrise shout-out, I think it was on 14 News with the pictures of the kids from Longest and their pictures that they had colored, and it was for Muhlenberg County Bus Transportation Department.
There's a good picture out there of Mr. Wells as well, and I'll try to get that to you.
All right, we'll move on down to personnel actions. Ms. Browning.
Good evening, everyone. Personnel actions, January 10th through February 19th, 2019. Certified personnel, we had certified personnel employment, there were 4 actions. Reassignment of certified personnel, 5 actions. Classified personnel employment, 9 actions. Resignation of classified personnel, 2 actions. And reassignment of classified personnel, 6 actions.
Thank you. And the attendance and enrollment report, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Our 6-month ended Friday, February the 15th, so as far as the detailed report, that'll be next month. Usually takes us about a week to get that finalized. But I did want to share with you just a couple things. We do have our current enrollment as of today is 4,537. When I gave you this last at our special call meeting, which was the 4th of February, it was 4,523, so up 14 students. when we ended the fifth month, our enrollment, which was January the 14th, so just a little over a month away, we were at 4,517, so up 20 students from that. I think a couple things. We have a few returning from homeschool. Also, the mines opening up in Ohio. There's some folks moving in from Eastern Kentucky, so I think that's could be some contributing factors to that. As far as the attendance this week and last week, we are on that bubble as far as attendance, but one of the things that's been fortunate is, I tell Mr. Davis, we have 10 weather days a year, and due to the flooding that we currently, we're still under flood warning, especially in the Rochester area and down, so we can count those as weather days, so we monitor that. So that's one of the things that's been able to help us out. And how that works is we take last year's attendance day and compare it to today's, and if it's better last year, we get to count that day because it's a weather day. So we've used several of those last week, which has really helped, and that's helped him make a decision as far as, but we'll see about that. We went up a little bit. We went up 1.5 points from yesterday, so that's always a good trend. If we went down 1.5 points, then that's something he's got to consider. Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Very good.
All right, we're moving on down to the board action items, and the first item, A, is to approve memorandum of agreement with the University of Kentucky and the College of Health Sciences Division of Communication Sciences and Disorders.
It's very long, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so tonight we do have a contract for you to consider between UK and Muhlenberg County Schools, and this contract would allow graduate students in the Communication Disorder Department to come to Muhlenberg County to obtain quality practicum experiences. And we currently have 9 speech therapists and 1 speech therapy assistant, so we'll have plenty of opportunities and plenty of classrooms for these ladies and gentlemen to observe in. Our main requirements through this process would be for me to conduct an orientation with all of the potential practicum students and orient them to the operations and procedures of Muhlenberg County, to offer a variety of practicum experiences from preschool all the way to high school, and then participate in the evaluation so they can obtain their grades and for graduate hours.
Any discussion? If not, I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Wells and a second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of approving the MOA with the University of Kentucky, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Item B, consider rejecting original bids for Gatton Ballpark for Bremen and post-bid addendum competitive negotiations and enter into direct project negotiations with Westerfield Builders Incorporated. Mr. Thomas, but you're not Mr. Thomas.
Yes, let me first apologize for Craig's absence. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kyle Abney. I've been with RBS Design Group for going on 16 years. So it was a pleasure to be here this evening. I have 4 items to present that need motions. And as you just read, the first would be to reject the original bid and the post-bid addendum for competitive negotiations on the Gatton Ballpark at Bremen, and then enter into direct negotiations with Westerfield Builders. With those negotiations, we were able to bring the project into budget. This is a series of 4 motions, with the end result being a revised BG1 for the project.
I think Mr. Thomas was here, wasn't it? And kind of brought us all up to date about what I'm working on. I've missed a few of those meetings through the work schedule conflict, but the first item would be to consider rejecting the original bid, as he said. So is there any discussion or questions regarding this for Mr. Abney? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So we got 4.
There's 4 in there. For this thing. You can't answer them all separate. I'll make the motion to consider rejecting the original bid.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of considering rejecting the original bid for the Gatton Ballpark and enter into direct project negotiations with Westerfield Builders, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. This next item would be going down to consider awarding the Gatton Ballpark project to Westerfield Builders Incorporated.
Yes, so the direct negotiations with Westerfield Builders has taken place, and with the elimination of the large baseball field, the basketball court, and modifying the size of the restrooms from multi-user to single users, and also reducing the field lighting because you're only lighting one field. And then with that, we will be able to provide some lighting to the area where the field is going to be, with some slight grading, make that into a soccer field area, and off of one pole light, add a set of lights to light that area. But with those negotiations, and also a small change in the marquee sign, the amount for the contract for Westerfield Builders is $697,754.13. And that would be the motion to award that to Westerfield Builders.
And with that being said, just being a part of the committee that has made these decisions thus far, there's been an input from several on the committee to get to this point, so it's not just something that with Mr. Sharp's been involved, a bunch of us have been involved, Melody, so it's been a experience, that's for sure.
This is the final amount?
That is for the amount for the construction project. Now, the next motion will be for the field lighting.
Okay, but this no inflation, no?
Well, no, this is for the construction, and then the revised BG1 has all the soft cost in it.
Any discussion? If not, I'll make a motion to approve considering awarding Gatton Ballpark project to Westerfield Builders.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Item D, consider awarding field lighting bid to Musco in the amount of $115,000, and this is also for the Bremen Ballpark.
Those are to be purchased off state price contract.
A motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of considering the field lighting bid to Musco in the amount of $115,000 for the Bremen Gatton Ballpark, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And item E, consider revised BG1 for the Gatton Ballpark project.
And this is the two construction costs combined along with contingencies and fees, so for a total of $967,336.81.
That's close.
Yeah.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the revised BG1 for the Gatton Ballpark project.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving down to item F. Consider college coach position at the Muhlenberg County High School for the 2019-2020 school year.
Thank you, Chairman Rager, board members. Just briefly, this has been, this is no change in funding, nor is it a cost to the district. This is an opportunity that Muhlenberg County High School has had the chance to participate in the last 2 years through a partnership of AmeriCorps as well as the Martin Foundation. We've been very fortunate to have two former Mustang alumni to come in and be hired for these positions. The purpose of this job is to really work with those first-generation college students, and that has been very impactful. This year, we've even seen a larger enrollment of students taking the ACT than ever before, and been quite proud of a couple of students that probably would have never even thought about going to college had it not been for our Ms. Concrete, who's currently in that position, really working with them and helping them find ways to apply for those various scholarships. So as you can see, the recommended is that you approve the hiring of the college coach at the high school for the 1920 year.
Have a motion by Mr. Johar. Second by Ms. Bart. All in favor of considering the college coach position at the high school for the 2019-20 school year, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Down to item G, to consider purchase of a truck for the maintenance department. Mr. Blutzinger.
All right, Mr. Davis said I had 5 minutes last month, and we've taken 4 of them with my treasurer's report, so we have 1 minute to do 7 items. All right, the first one, consider truck purchase. This will be something we had actually discussed in the fall. We could not get bids that were reasonably priced. So what we did is we've gone out and solicited bids. Had we just advertised, we would have gotten 1 bid. So Jimmy has gone out and asked for bids. We got 2 back. The first bid came in at $29,000 from the local dealership. The second bid came in at $26,000 with the documentation attached. Both bids have included the snow plow, winter snow removal to assist with winter snow removal and the capacity to handle that. We did opt to go with the local dealer just because keeping it in the county for one, and also the proximity to get the service done is a far better proposition for us. I had budgeted $50,000 for vehicles for fiscal year 19. We have purchased a van already, which left $23,800 in it. To get the remaining items, there's a other equipment line item in the budget that has a $10,000 allotment, has not been touched. So we'll do a budget amendment to move the funds from that area. So we'll, this is not just taking money from contingency, this is taking money from another line item, to have a zero balance budget in that respect. So that's what we're asking to do.
Make a motion.
A motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of considering the purchase of the truck for the maintenance department for the bid for $29,000 to Toad Chrysler, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. All right, next is item H, consider school bus purchase. Mr. Blutzinger.
All right, thank you again.
Do we get a free one?
Do what's that?
Do we get a free one?
We do not have a free one.
She asked, I did.
Yeah, I know. I caught that.
I'm trying to behave.
That's our favorite thing.
I know. Well, if
We
we
like free
if
stuff.
we do ever come across a free one again, I'll be sure to bring it right to you.
I oppose anyways.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, so this is 2 buses. I budgeted $200,000 based on previous year's costs. However, we're going to get the buses that have air. There are 2 options for air. The larger air units are about $9,700. With that said, they handle the cooling better. You're not using an underpowered unit to cool a large bus. So the total for each bus is $105,779, which results in a total of $211,558. We had a previous surplus sale of some bus bodies, right? It was only the bodies, correct? Okay. Which resulted in $4,600. So we're going to use those funds to make up the difference, and which leaves about almost $7,000, and we're going to reallocate those funds out of diesel fuel expense. So we've got a little bit of room in that one that we can move again, not taking from contingency, we are moving it from another line item. With no free bus.
No free bus. Is it the same company we're getting last ones?
They are.
No, this will be different.
Oh, it's different?
This will be the 2017, we got the IC buses that do the same stuff.
What he said.
I have a motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of considering the school bus purchase of 2 buses in the amount of $211,558, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. All right. Moving on to item I under the agenda, consider SBDM allocations for the 2019-20 school year.
All right. This year we are continuing on with the recommendation, $110 per student for each school. One thing I do want to bring your attention to that we did add this year, for the middle schools, we had an additional $2,500 in the athletics category, so $5,000 for each, with the addition of more athletics at the middle school level. It's putting a little bit of a strain on their SBDM budget, so we opted to give them I did ask for justification. I was provided justification, and that was a good level that we could help them out with. So that is our recommendation at this time.
It was same like last year, 110?
It was 100, correct. Yes.
Make a motion to approve the SBDM allocations in the amount of $110 per student per school.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of considering these allocations, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Item J, consider approving AIA contract for guaranteed energy savings contract and associated purchase orders.
Okay, this is the contract that's in the binder in front of you all. This is the contract, the AIA contract is a standardized agreement that KDE has us sign between that. We've done this before with the roofs that we've put on. This is now just an energy savings agreement. They also have additional items that they put with these. So for instance, Exhibit D is an addition. Exhibit E, these are all the addendums that are added to that contract in order to address the energy savings items specifically. We've gone and we've discussed these with Train. We feel comfortable with the contract. There were a few items that we did change. We did discuss parameters that they set for operating hours, set points, as well as equipment that I did send you guys a follow-up email on. Which is part of the purchase orders that are associated with this. There was some discussion on what brand of equipment that was to be used. We decided that we would use the equipment that Train has provided in the bid. However, they extended labor warranty for an additional year, and they also extended the parts warranty to 5 years, which in my mind, if you have parts that are failing, Jimmy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that could cover just that'll offset the cost, frankly. So, or it's not even an additional cost, it'll just offset the discussion with having one brand versus another brand. And then there are associated purchase orders, which is attachment B. These are the purchase orders that we will purchase directly from both Train and Harshaw Train to avoid sales tax costs, and that's an additional savings to our district. So that is what I'm asking that we approve.
Motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of considering approving the AIA contract for the guaranteed energy savings and associated purchase orders, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. All right, go down to item K, consider approving revised BG1 for guaranteed energy savings contract.
We had to revise the BG1. We did add some controls to some of the schools. Jimmy and I had discussions with Harshaw on that. It increased the cost, but this is also going to help in that we won't have to replace the panels. They're called JACE panels, which communicate between the operating system, correct me if I'm wrong, the control system and the units at each school. Those JACE panels range from 4,000 to 6,000 a piece, and a lot of them are failing. So this is an opportunity for us to upgrade those with some new equipment, also to gain some savings through adding additional controls at the schools. I also want to mention that that increase, a lot of that is being paid for by the savings that are being generated from the addition of those items. Asking you to approve the revised BG1.
I'll make a motion to consider approving the revised BG1 for the guaranteed energy savings contract. Second by Ms. Bard. All in favor of considering the revised BG1 for the energy savings, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And item L, consider resolution to issue new bonds for guaranteed energy savings contract.
Okay.
Are these all the same? Just kidding.
There's a lot of them. Again, this is the item that Dr. Tarvin discussed with you all. So if you want to read the one you first started reading, that's right.
Oh, would you like me to read that now?
If you can read that one, then that's the resolution.
Sure, now I'll mess it up.
Issue the bonds. I won't stop you either.
Okay, here we go. All right. Story time. All right. Muhlenberg County School Board Resolution. The resolution of the Board of Education of the Muhlenberg County, Kentucky School District approving a guaranteed energy savings contract with Train Incorporated and approving the plan of financing the cost of said project, confirming the acceptance of an offer of assistance from the Kentucky School Facilities Construction Commission, authorizing and approving the execution of a participation agreement with said commission, authorizing and approving the execution of a contract, lease, and option with the Muhlenberg County School District Finance Corporation and any further necessary instruments.
Thank you.
Was that right?
That was perfect.
Okay, great.
Motion for that?
Yes, sir.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Johar. Second by Ms. Bard. All in favor of considering the resolution for the new bonds for the guaranteed energy savings contract, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. And down to item M, consider BG2 for each school.
Okay, BG2 this is something that is specific to the Guaranteed Energy Savings Project. Katie is required to report to the General Assembly the projected efficiency numbers that this project will generate for each school. They have to do one for each school, so all of them are contained behind this, and it's also reflected in the contract as well.
Make a motion to consider the BG2 for each school. Second by Ms. Mills. All in favor of considering the BG2s for each school, say aye. All opposed? I hear none. All right, we're down to the board consent agenda items, which covers the leave of absence request, facilities use agreement, fundraising request, and field trip request. If there's no questions or concerns, I need a motion to approve the board consent agenda items.
I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Wells. Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of approving the board consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Wells.
Second.
Second by Ms. Barr. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.